one thing that I really liked about the MOOC was that I could kind of use it to well, I could just take lectures on things I didn't understand or that I wanted to understand better. And it was also broken up to be much more succinct, I thought.
So they will appreciate the company that they give them a lot of training courses. And sometimes e-learning is not that effective in this way.
We've spent the last 15 years really focusing on developing powerful active pedagogies, and now in one fell swoop, we're back to the stand-up lecture.
It was very difficult to engage in conversations. I mean, you'd post your thoughts and nobody would respond to them, and everybody else would post their thoughts and no one would respond to them.
To realize fully collaborative, real-time discussion and group work system must be realized.
There's enough proof that pure e-learning has never resulted in higher achievement levels of students. And this is research that's available within the education industry. I'm not sure about academia, but definitely within the industry, the people who are trying to sell e-learning know that the achievement rates don't go up with pure e-learning. So it's only blended learning models that have succeeded. So MOOC is another step forward in the blended learning model, where you're trying to include the teachers a little bit more. But most learning is social. Most learning comes via interaction. Most learning things get embedded because you anchor them in emotion. And that anchoring does not happen without human contact.
I teach translation in the University of the Republic here in Uruguay. What we do is workshops. Personal contact with the student does make an important contribution, and I don't see how this kind of virtual platforms would be of any help for this.
These kinds of students who can't afford it and who struggle, MOOCs aren't going to help them because it requires so much willpower, and they don't generally have that or time.
有些被采访者认为，公开课的字幕。
We're a state institution. Our budget's been reduced by 60-some%. Over the last few years, it's been just cataclysmic. The public has supported a withdrawal of funding and investment in universities as providing some social good.
There is a need, there is a gap, there is a market.
There are 4 billion people that are living on that, $150 a month type of thing. It's the same type of people. Whether you Filipino or Indonesian or Sri Lankan or Kenyan or Ghanaian or Mexican or Colombian or we're all the same. We're all exactly the same. We all aspire to exactly the same things.
No one actually, invests in a lot of training for teachers. No one's doing this specifically for the Indian teachers.
Most African educational systems tend to be very rote-based, and what is being tested is capacity to accumulate knowledge, capacity to memorize huge amounts of information. Very rarely are African educational systems designed to actually test understanding, designed to test independent thinking, independent analytical abilities, right? Challenging students to be participants in their own education. Education ultimately should be about equipping students with the skills, the understandings, the technical abilities to be able to become effective problem solvers in their communities, in their nations.
I want to learn something that I can really put into practice. Not just talking about some, stuff I cannot relate to reality.
But what interests me most is skills for participation in civil society, concrete skills, like how do you get people to show up at a meeting, or how do you get a meeting to conclude with a decision. So I'm really interested in disaggregating those civic skills and then badging them. If you did a Venn diagram of workforce skills and civic skills, there would be a big overlap.
I see a lot more of the human aspect coming back in.
And the other big change that we're about to see is the real mainstream release of 3D printing. I think what we're going to find is that that's going to be a very interesting thing where all of a sudden you can like really build and make stuff.
I think the other challenge is obviously reaching out, because you're creating an online product for a particular segment, and most of the people in the demography don't actually have access to internet. Well, you don't forget good, you don't have internet access. I mean, internet is दूर की बात है, you don't have electricity.
We have to get past this concept of seat time. We really need to get into a mastery model.
这个是很伟大的事情，就是它会带来知识的这种爆发性积累。靠大学的知识哈是不足够的。
And I think that because what we have right now in the MOOC space is information chaos, that the real some very big substantial opportunities are going to be developed by those who figure out how to organize that information chaos into accessible pathways that would help a student find the most direct and highest quality and least expensive path from where they are to where they want to be.
But then there are other infrastructural needs that you actually have, right? So the fact that a lot of the schools outside of your major cities in a place like Kenya, so outside of Nairobi, Mombasa, maybe even Kisumu, schools outside of these environments have a very unreliable, very shaky supply of electricity. There's absolutely no broadband, for example. How are you going to be able to connect to the internet to be able to make this viable as an educational tool?
I want them to be able to come to school ready to learn, but that doesn't always happen. We deal with, on a daily basis, a lot of other things first, non-academic things, social things, emotional things, things that students are dealing with at home. Students being preoccupied with parents that are incarcerated, parents that have been deported, students who go home to an empty house and cook dinner for themselves. I do believe that those challenges can be overcome, but they require a lot more time than we have within the typical public school day. They need a lot more services, counseling services and social services that we don't necessarily have available here.
I love MOOCs. I completely love MOOCs. I just wish they I wish they didn't need to carry the burden of higher education. Release them from the burden of higher education, let them be freely available, charge for examining, charge for components, split it up into bits. That's what I would say. There's clearly a future. And like I said, there's clearly a future in different models, not that it doesn't need to try to fit into the classic university model. It really needs to evolve into its own thing.